Okay, so I have this little super cute scene here. The things I wanna set up are my lights. I have a few of them already created here. First one is simulating the sun. So let's turn shadows on. The resolution is pretty creepy, so let's increase it and maybe add some filter size, like 3. The next light is ambient light. It's flat, it's illuminating everything in the same amount. And the last one I will talk about is skylight. And I want my skylight to have really soft shadows, so I will keep the resolution on 512 and just increase the filter size. If you have light with really big filter size, it's not necessary to set the resolution high, because it's the same on even much bigger resolutions. So it's not necessary, and it will only slow the performance. So let's turn all my lights. Now, one thing you can notice is that my lights are shining on the sky sphere too. I don't want that, so I will create a set with all the geometry except the sun and the sky. I'll call it main set. And now I will add a FurryBall light node to these two lights. And here in light sets I will select the set I've created, and now the lights are shining only the things in the set. I have one forgotten light here. It's the fill light for this little cute guy. And I don't want it to shine on anything else than him either, so I will create set just for him. So create another set, I'll call it Fisherman set. Okay, add new light attribute node, Fisherman set. Now it's only shining on him. Let's turn shadows on, and I want soft shadows like with these skylight, so just increase this to 20. As I edit the light setting nodes, my filtering of the lights become pretty creepy, so to fix that I will go back to the light settings node, and in shadows I will change filter type to stochastic and increase samples to, for example, 32, maybe 40, to have these nice soft shadows. Same goes for this light here. Next thing I want to set up is ambient occlusion, so I will turn it on in the render settings node along with the color bleeding. Settings for ambient occlusion and color bleeding can be found here or under this icon. So in render settings node I can display only ambient occlusion paths. It's very handy when you adjusting ambient occlusion. So let's increase radius, maybe lower the angle, and maybe higher intensity. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this, so let's move on to the color bleeding. I want my color bleeding to be white and simulate the bounce light in the scene, so I will change radius to maybe 20 and lower the angle to maybe 1 or 2 and lower this one too. Maybe the intensity is too much, so I will put it down a little, and let's look at the beauty pass and try with it and without it. Yeah, it's better, so let's move on to depth of field. If you select anything and press focus and select it under FurryBall, it will create locator which represents the focus of the camera you have active. So let's move it to the eyes of this handsome little guy, and in render settings switch depth of field on. You can see it's enabled here, and I can adjust the settings to be more visible. This attribute here creates increase the area of focus of the camera, so it's useful. It's fake, but it's useful. Another thing that's connected to camera is environment fog. To add some environment fog, just select the camera, add camera attribute node, and here under the fog tab you can check the environment fog and adjust where it starts, where it ends, opacity, and of course color. If some object, like if you don't like that some object, for example like this sphere, this sky sphere, if you don't think it should be affected by environment fog, just add mesh attributes to the mesh, and in render settings select ignore fog. Now it will ignore fog. Same goes for the sun, I guess. You can just add the same FurryBall settings, and now the fog doesn't affect it. Last thing we're gonna do with this in this chapter are to make some god rays under the tree. I've got already some fog fluid shape here. It's just basic fog fluid container with opacity set to 1 everywhere and with drop off shape of sphere. So you must turn on fluids in the render settings to see it. It's currently gray because only ambient light affect it, because this fluid is not in either one of these sets we have for these lights. So let's add it to the mindset. Okay, now these two lights affected because they have this set in here. Okay, now I want only the sunlight to shine on the fog, so let's not call it a fog, let's call it a god rays. Okay, so I select the god rays, I select every other light than the sun and hit lightning shading, break light links. Now only the sun shines through it, but these shadows are too dark. I want fluid to be completely transparent there. To do that I must again add fluid attribute node And here in shadows, set shadow transparency to 1. Now we have here some little or big artifacts. To get rid of them, just in the render stats turn depth jitter on, and now to get rid of this noise, just set Maya volume sample override on and set samples to some higher value. Okay, now the last thing, we don't want environment fog to affect the fluid because it causes this shining ball of light, so just hit ignore fog and that's it. You can adjust transparency of the fluid. Yeah. Okay. Next thing we're gonna look at are these leaves. There's some texture already on them. It's texture with some transparency channel. So if we turn on transparency in render settings, they become transparent. But transparency is not exactly what I want. I want these leaves to be completely transparent. Not even these specular highlights to appear there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna assign FurryBall material settings node to the material of the leaves, and I'm gonna check alpha mask. Now these leaves are only visible where transparency is on 1. The sun is shining through these leaves, so it would be nice to have some translucency there. To enable translucency, I have to first enable it in the light node, in the FurryBall light node. So I will enable translucency, and now if I have in the material of the leaves some texture applied in translucency, I can see that the light becomes to shine through these leaves. If I adjust depth and focus, I can manage. Okay, maybe brighter texture, maybe some different color. Okay. Okay, let's look at the water now. I would like to add some waves there, but I will not use file texture. I will use Maya procedural texture. So I will choose water. And now FurryBall is not rendering the texture because I don't have my textures enabled in render settings, so I will enable it. My sky sphere become to be brighter because I have some procedural ramp in here also. And so let's get back to our water. And now I will do more of the waves so we can see them. Every time you change anything in the procedural texture, FurryBall tells Maya to re-render it, so it can take a long time. So here you can down here you can change the resolution Maya is rendering the procedural texture in to get faster results. So I'll change it to lesser value. Okay, and now I can play with it a little bit more. I could animate the texture Okay, now when we have these nice waves, let's add some reflection to the water. To do that, I must enable reflections in render settings, and now the reflectivity of the material must be higher than 0, and the reflected color can be black. And I have to select the object where I want my reflections to be and add mesh attribute node. And in here I will, because this is a flat surface, I will enable planar mirror reflections. Okay, here are my reflections. I can adjust how much. I can adjust the resolution of the reflection map which will be rendered, and I can adjust how much my bump affects or deforms the reflection. Okay, now let's add some velvet effect to the water. To do that, I will assign material settings node, and here in tab other I will add some velvet. Okay. And the last thing in this chapter will be adding subsurface scattering on this guy here. So I now want to work just with this guy, so I will make a set for him. Oh, I already have set for him here. We used it for lighting. So in render settings I will choose that I want to render just this set. So fisherman set, and now this guy is visible. And again I will add material attribute node, and well, we can add some velvet effect too. It would be nice. And here under subsurface scattering I enable subsurface scattering, and also I must enable it in here in render settings node. And now subsurface scattering is already there. I can adjust softness and radius of diffusion of every layer, color of every layer. There are 2 presets for human skin and wax. I can use some human skin specular instead of specular of this material, and I can adjust size of the subsurface scattering texture. With higher resolution you will get more precise results. I will adjust the diffusion of the layers so the skin will be softer. Okay. Okay, it looked like wax a little, but I think for this little guy it's just fine. Sometimes when you jump off the render selection set, the shadows are messed up, so to fix that, just clear memory. It's okay. Now let's make some grass. I will uncheck everything I don't need, like reflections and subsurface scattering and stuff. And okay, I want grass to grow on this, so let's create FurryBall hairs and enable it in render settings. And now just I want them to be longer. I want to be less of them, and I want them to grow in clumps. So clumps per 12, for example. I can change radius of the clumps and inclination. Now let's change color to some nice green. Oh. Okay, let's add some variance in tones of the grass. Maybe there's still too much of the grass. Okay, that's better. Some randomness in the length of the hair, and some randomness in the length of the clumps. Okay, yeah. Okay, now we have grass. We can play with these settings a little bit, like some waviness and bend. Okay, I'm happy with my grass. Let's hide it for now. And now I think this little guy here needs some beard. So let's select polygons on bottom of his head, and like this, for example. And let's create FurryBall hairs again. And I want the beard to grow down, not like this, so I need to style them a little, and to do that I will change my CVs. It means number of points per hair. If you press F8 you can edit the points of the hair, the CVs. So let's select the end CVs. And let's move them down like this. Okay. Now I can add some more CVs and edit the shape more. Okay, let's start FurryBall and look at our beard. Well, it should be thinner. And like with the grass, I will just now edit these attributes to be happy with the result. So change waviness, color, variance. The waviness will work better if you have more CVs per guide here, up here. So One other thing, I must now add the beard to the main set again and to the fisherman set, because now these lights doesn't shine on the beard. So let's rename it beard. Let's add it to these sets. Yeah, now you can see it's much better. Okay, I will try to turn on long hair diffuse. It will get better, and we can add some specularity to these hairs. And if I want my shadow in the beard to be deeper, I can either change amount of ambient occlusion received in hair shadows tab, or I can make the hairs wider for the shadow computing. So let's do that, and now we can the hairs have their own filtering in the shadows, so filtering here in the light doesn't affect them. So we can change filtering to higher value to get softer shadows in the hair. Okay, I'm happy with the beard, and next thing I'm gonna do is that let's hide the fluid for now. Next thing I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna smooth this tree here with FurryBall subdivision. So let's add mesh attribute node, and here on the subdivision tab check subdivision. Now I have to enable subdivision in render settings node, and now the trunk is nice and smooth. I can display the density of the current mesh now here in render settings by drawing the wireframe. So now we can see how the tree is tessellated. And now when it's tessellating already, I can add some displacement to it. So under the shading group of the material, I will add some simple noise. And now we have this nice displacement on the tree. I can adjust the amount of displacement bar by changing color gain and color offset. Okay, now we can turn on everything we've created and get the final picture.